Hey everyone, this is Matt and welcome back. So I think this is going to be day 3 for you guys of my kind of garage update and upgrade series. It's been a couple weeks since the last time I picked up the camera, but it's because I had to get some stuff straightened out in the garage and get some things on order. But today we are going to go ahead and do the last of what I need to do, which is get my new garage flooring down. Other than aesthetics, I really want to protect my concrete. I'll show you here in a second, but just brake cleaner, gas, oil, all the stuff that drips down off my cars onto the slab, it just kind of eats up the concrete a little bit. So I do want to protect that, and I was looking at several different options, epoxy flooring, tile flooring. I was looking at like the big rolls that you just kind of get that roll out that are like 10 feet wide. I was looking at all kinds of options. So what I settled on was a vinyl tile, and I'll talk about more specifics in a second, but I didn't go with epoxy because I do have epoxy in my workshop, and I found that if you do get any moisture on the slab or it gets just dirty enough, it actually becomes very slippery. And you can put grit in the epoxy, but really you're just opening yourself up to more headaches down the road, because that grit will make it difficult to keep the floor clean. It'll look dirty, and actually that grit will start peeling up over time depending on what you're doing to it. So plus you have to have a really clean slab, and there's lots of stuff to make an epoxy floor like really successful. And personally for me, I don't want to do it in my garage. And it's actually probably one of the cheaper options if you do want to go with some sort of a flooring, but for me, that wasn't the choice. The big giant rolls that you can get, again, they're okay. There are relatively cheap ones out there, and really I don't have any major complaints other than you're really going to be limited by the size that's available, and there's probably not as thick. And if you have to cut around objects, it probably gets a little more complicated, because like mine, I've got the posts and for the lift. Laying something out like that would end up, I'd have to cut a slit in it somewhere. And so anyway, vinyl tiles were the option for me. And there's lots of things out there, SwissTrax, RaceDeck, all the different things. But the product that I have, I did spend a lot of research and just reading reviews online to kind of understand what the pros and cons were for all the different types of tile. And things like SwissTrax are kind of the open ones. The benefit there is that if you do have a leak or fluids, it'll seep down into the tile and not sit there on the floor. But also, if you have to clean up that mess, you have to pull the tile up. But there's other issues there. They have a hollow sound, so when you walk on them, you'll hear them. They're not very comfortable to kneel on or sit on, because the little ridges do actually, they'll put a lot of pressure on your skin or your knee. Different types of tiles, materials, but what I went for specifically was something that was heavy duty, could withstand the weight of cars and jacks and things like that, some chemical resistance, and I wanted something that was a little bit softer so that it didn't have a loud sound, and it would potentially conform to any little deviations in the slab. So I went with the they're called nitro tiles from Garage Flooring, and they're not sponsoring this video or anything, but they have a pretty cool selection of different patterns. I went with the coin, so you get the little circles. They do have like diamond plate and smooth, I think. So they've got several different ones, but this is a pretty, I think this is like 4 millimeters of PVC, and they're really flexible and strong, and I have no doubts that that would conform to any issues that I have in my slab. But you can go check out their website, and they've got like a flooring designer. So if you want to get a specific pattern, or you've got a specific size garage, you can go and plug in your numbers, and it'll tell you what you need. Got lots of colors and things like that. So this is I think it's about a 20 by 20 or 22 by 22. I'll put information on the screen, but their tiles are, like I said, they're about that shape, and they're pretty nice. I mean, from anything I can, just holding them, they're really stout. And they've got lots of ribbing underneath them, so that they're designed to take the weight of a jack stand. So anyway, they're not cheap for sure. I think between the 2 orders that I made, because originally when I laid it out, I was really looking to only get a certain dimension width, but then after laying it out on the floor a little bit, I decided I want to go a little bit wider, and that's why the video is out a little bit later than when I was working on the garage a couple weeks ago. But I do have all the tiles in now. I forget the total number, but it came in, I think each box holds like 10 tiles or 11 tiles, and I got like 11 or 12 boxes. So I don't remember exactly how many tiles I've got. I'll put it on the screen, but I'm just gonna do enough to get from my farthest wall over to cover the area where I typically work. If I had wanted to go all the way across my garage, it'd probably be 4 times the cost that I've already got invested in this stuff. If you sign up for like Garage Flooring's email list or follow them on social media, places like that, or even go to their website a lot of times, they'll run coupon codes quite a bit. I think the first set I got, I think it was 30% off, might have been 28% off. That kind of is like their standard. And I might have got free shipping on the first one, but then the second one, I think I got the discount, but I had to pay shipping. And shipping will add up depending, because these are very heavy. So this the stacks I've got here is not even half of what I have. I don't even know how much each of these weighs, a couple pounds. But anyway, so that's something to keep in mind if you are gonna order a large quantity, is that shipping could be an issue. I think the gist of it is that they just snap into place. And so this side has the matching profile. My pattern is really, it's kind of a function and a form. So I went with the lighter tile to kind of go in the center area. And my thought there is that if I drop bolts, screws, have fluid leaks, it'll show up a lot better on this lighter color tile. And then, I could have done the whole area in this gray, but just for aesthetics, I'll do the perimeter in this dark gray. So this is at the back wall of my garage, and this will be at the left wall of my garage. And I'm really just gonna go ahead and trim these, because the ones that are up against the wall, that is. Because really, once those are in place, there really should be no reason to have to do anything with those, but I will leave this end exposed around the edges so that in the future, when I want to add more tiles, I've already got the system there to go ahead and snap them in. So the only cutting I'm going to do is just to cut these little tabs off along the sidewall, and then of course I have to cut around the post lifts and kind of deal with that, because I've got the cable that runs across the floor. So that's the only thing I still have to figure out. But I'm gonna start in kind of like the upper left-hand corner if you're facing the garage, and work over and back, and then everything will just kind of fill out towards the side of the garage. But really, I'm gonna spend some time getting everything out of my way, and I've got a really dirty floor, so I'm gonna sweep it and go around with the scraper and try to get anything that's sticking up above the surface. And I don't think I'll go as crazy as using any chemicals or cleaners or anything like that. Really, once I get a couple rows down, that'll kind of establish where everything's gonna be. And then I've got to figure out about the dimensions around the cuts and all that kind of stuff. So really, hopefully just be a couple minutes for you guys, but I'll show you what I'm dealing with and things to consider if you're going to do this in your garage. I do try to take good care of my slab, really just clean up after myself and not have a big stain. And if we ever sold the house, just makes it look nice. But pretty much everything here is made by me at some point in time, because we had the house built. The Datsun made that mess. A lot of these spots you see are brake cleaner. I think that's gear oil. And of course, anytime I do a brake job, I do try to set pans down to catch anything that drips off while I'm working. But only like there, you can see exactly where my pan was. Like I said, I think my biggest obstacle I've got to deal with right now is getting the tile laid out far enough that I can figure out, cutting around the post isn't probably going to be a huge deal, but I do need to figure out about the cables for the lift and how that's going to work with the cover and all that. So I guess when I get up there, I don't think the tiles are so thick that I can't continue the tiles underneath it, but we'll have to see for sure. It may make an issue with the cover popping up over, which it kind of does that anyway. So that might make that issue worse. I'm not gonna take it underneath my toolbox or my workbench. I will start right at the edge of my workbench and work out. And I may put like a 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch gap along the wall just to give it a little bit of room. I think the joints and the tiles are gonna be tight enough that they won't seep fluids through the tile, but I do worry if moisture is trying to come up from the bottom of the slab. I don't think I have a vapor barrier underneath this slab in my garage, but in the wintertime, you kind of see where some of the moisture just from pulling the cars in and stuff kind of comes up from the slab. So I will have to keep my eye on that and see if it traps any moisture, but only time will tell really on that. So I think the next thing for me is just to get all this stuff moved over to the other side of the garage and then get this area cleaned up. So I'll check in when I've gotten all that squared away. All right, so this is about an hour later. I have the floor nice and clean. I did go ahead and do a light mop over it just to get the last little dust. There's nothing to hold them down specifically, but I thought having the slab really clean, no dust, and clean the back of the tiles, give it enough grip that it won't want to slide around too much. So, what you see here is only a couple minutes worth of work, so it goes together pretty quickly. I have opened up a lot more of the boxes, and I have found a few that were a little scuffed or had some black marks on them, so I am putting those in locations where they're less likely to be seen, but I'll pull you in close and show you how easy this goes together. All right, so I know I'm doing this probably a little bit more complicated because it'd be ideal to have it going like this across my floor so that when I bring a new piece in, I can just set it down on top of the tabs. But because I want the clean edge so I can expand my tile flooring in the future, I am basically installing it backwards. So, but it's not a big deal, it's just a little extra work. So now that I've got the perimeter kind of the way I want it, it's fairly simple just to lift these up and slide, and you can kind of eyeball the seam. And then I like to just get one of the corners going, and then so you don't have to pound it with your hand or use a hammer, but if you step on it, you can kind of hear it clicking into place as you go. So yeah, I mean, if all of them were like that, this process would be very, very quick. But where I do need to cut some, that's going to take up some time, and now my floor looks like Legos. I've got the whole, basically the perimeter, to the end of where I've got it laid out. That's where it's going to stop for now. And I just left out the pieces I'm going to have to cut significantly just to fit around the post. And there's lots of tricks and tips about cutting tiles, and some of that will work, some of it won't work for this because you have this extra dimension that isn't part of the overall dimension of the tile. So with the few I've got, it'll be easy just to measure them out, mark them, and cut them. But it went together pretty well. There were a few places where it was like where the tile was cut, it was a little bit tight, and so I had to kind of really work on it to get it to lay down. And of course, the cables and stuff for the lift are fine. They kind of hover off the ground anyway. It'll rub a little bit. I'm probably more worried about the cover gouging and digging in, but there's not much I can do about that. So I'll get these cut, put the cover for the lift back on, and it'll probably take some time for everything to lay completely flat. I'll check in when I'm completely done getting these fitted, and we'll check it out from there. Here it is with all the tiles installed, and I'll tell you, cutting the ones around the post, just doing those 6 probably took as long as doing the rest of it. That tile's pretty tough, so even a sharp razor knife, you got to go nice and slow to get through it, but looks pretty clean. I went ahead and put my the cable cover on. It is lifted higher than the little channels that support it, but I think there's opportunities to build a bracket and hold that down, which probably should have been that way to begin with, because this does pop up sometimes when I hit it pulling a car in or out. This looks really good, and it's still only not even a third of my garage, so it covers where I'm going to be working. That was really my goal. And I probably could use another row or two back here to come all the way to the door, but really the cars really won't ever be that far back. So I got plenty of length. There's quite a bit of color variation, but that's going to be kind of true of any type of material that's made in bulk. Really kind of shows up in the lighter tiles, but it's not terrible. And by the time it gets a little bit of dirt on it, it'll all probably look the same. I'm pretty happy, but I think for the most part that completes my phase 1 of my garage update, and got my cabinets in. I did go ahead and get everything organized the other day. All my tools are in here. Cleaned off my workbench. I need to try to keep it that way. I want to get some more cabinets and put them up there on the wall in front of the Datsun. This is so much better than it was a few weeks ago. And now I'm ready to start getting into some more projects. Like I said, I probably need to get this put back together so I can drive it. The next video you see will probably be something Datsun related, whether it's a video from like a year ago where I started working on this or something else. But anyway, I appreciate you guys for watching. If you have any questions about the flooring or anything else I've done here in the shop, go ahead and leave a comment down below, or you can find me on Instagram, Facebook. I'll put the links and stuff down below. So anyway, guys, yeah, I hope you guys get some ideas for your garage, and maybe one day I'll go into more depth on some of my organization stuff that I've got. Just, you know, show you how I keep my parts and fasteners and all that stuff kind of organized. But for now, that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys have a great day, and I'll see you next time.